former President Donald Trump launched Truth Social, a competing social network with Twitter and Facebook to prevent conservative ideas from being deplatformed. We'll get into the details, and there's a tech angle here, which is why I want to riff on this. I think there's a lot of conversation about Trump, and it's exhausting. Poor takes on all across the political spectrum, and he's really brought out the worst in a lot of people in a lot of ways in the United States. But I just want to first by saying, most of the people I hang out with are left-leaning, are Democrats. So I fully hold space. And mostly I dunk on libs, mostly on Twitter, because I view honestly the Republican Party. It's almost like I've lost hope for it. It's ridiculous. It's completely incinerated itself. So I say this as someone that I'm not a fan of cancel culture. I'm not a fan of not being able to talk about things and walk through a fucking laser grid. But to the false equivalency to say that the Dems and the Republicans are on the same, no. Dems have their issues. The Republican Party, the wholesale bend over Republican Party to 147 Republican lawmakers voted to overturn the election after the January 6 riots, storming of the Capitol. And over half of Republicans in the United States, recent polling has shown, believe the election was stolen. That's because Republican lawmakers at the top have not stood up to this anti-democratic scumbag, this baby up at the top that pisses on American values, the very thing that keeps the very soul of this country, democracy. Shits on it, no, throw it out. Republican parties have been spineless and not been willing to stand up to him, and that's trickled down to their base, and it's an absolute shit show. So I'm constantly dunking on the left, mostly on Twitter, because those are people I riff on, because the Republican Party, it's a fucking joke. So any conversation, I want to start by saying that both parties have their problems with the Republican Party wholesale bend over, and it's an absolute disgrace. So let's get into it. Truth Social, formerly the Trump Media and Technology Group, that's the name of the company, and Digital World Acquisition Corp. So Digital World Acquisition Corp is the company that Trump's company, Trump Media and Technology Group, is being acquired by Digital World Acquisition Corp to go public. So this is a SPAC, a SPAC deal. What is that? Public acquisition company. God, what's that S stand for? I forget. But basically, a SPAC is of course, I don't even know the name. I'm about to mansplain it to you. But a SPAC is a company that's already gone public with the goal of acquiring another company to make it easier for that other company to go public. So to go public, you got to IPO. You got to go through this whole process. It's a pain in the fucking ass. Or you can just get acquired by a company that's already public. So these SPACs that are already public, they acquire you, and then boom, your company's public. It's a kind of an interesting thing that's picked up a lot of steam over the past couple years, and I expect the SEC to start, kind of being like, oh, is this chill? Because I don't know. We'll see where it goes if this keeps going. I mean, it's an interesting thing. But these SPACs, what they do is when the SPACs themselves IPO, they actually raise a bunch of money. And the goal of the SPAC is solely to acquire another company. So you invest in an investor's SPAC because you think they're going to do a good job at bringing a company public, and you think that's going to increase you as a shareholder, increase the value that you initially put in over time. So it's an interesting thing. Anyway, so that's how they announced, pending approval and all that stuff. They announced that they will wish to be acquired by Digital World Acquisition Corp. And the first thing they're launching is Truth Social, which it's hilarious on their website. If you go to truthsocial.com or .org, I believe, Truth Social, I love the text on it, is now available for pre-order in the Apple App Store, which is just hilarious. It's like boomer speak for trying to get an app. I don't know what pre-order. That's like greatest generation speak. God bless them. But a pre-order in the App Store, it's not pre-ordering shit, bro. It's an app. Anyway, very similar to Twitter. They actually. A bunch of people were able to sign up as soon as they released it. A bunch of people were able to sign up and actually use the product. And a bunch of people came in and just started trolling the hell out of it. Someone signed up as Donald J. Trump, posted a photo of a pig taking a shit. I think that I read that somewhere. Didn't see the photo myself, but so it got absolutely just shit posted by a bunch of trolls that came in, which is hilarious. And then they shut down signups. And it's just hilarious because welcome to the world of content moderation, bro. Like, it's a hard problem, and I think certainly Twitter and Facebook, YouTube, it's a tough problem. Things can always be better. I'll say that, but the fact that they just shut it down because people are fucking shit posting. And when they do allow people to post, they're absolutely gonna have to do content moderation. And their whole thing that they're billing is that this is gonna be a platform for free speech, and that it's gonna be a what do they say? A massive market opportunity. There's a slide deck outlining the deal, but one of the screenshots shows just planet Earth with red and blue, kind of electricity coming into it. It says building a non-cancelable global community, and it says massive market opportunity, which I just think is absolutely hilarious. But listen, I'm all about free speech. I'm all about being able to have discussions, especially hard discussions, especially in areas that are super thorny. Like, we need to be able to make mistakes on issues without getting absolutely eviscerated. Like, especially in thorny issues, people make mistakes. Okay, people have dialogues, people riff. I say shit that's dumb sometimes. We all do. Okay, so I do think I get the ethos. But yeah, it's just fucking hilarious in there. So anyway, it's gonna be very similar to Twitter. It looked based on the uses. You can, rather than retweet and tweet, it's called a truth and a retruth, which is I have a quote here. I forget. This is from. Wow, interesting. President Donald J. Trump and the chairman of TMTG. President Bush. Yeah, it's funny they don't say former president. That was interesting. I didn't notice that. Do former presidents still call themselves presidents? Like, you say President Obama? I literally don't know. I don't know. Is it former President Obama? I don't know. Anyway, the quote: "I created Truth Social and TMTG." This is from Trump. "To stand up to the tyranny of big tech. We live in a world where the Taliban is a huge presence on Twitter, yet your favorite American president has been silenced. This is unacceptable. I am excited to sound out my first truth on Truth Social very soon. TMTG was founded with a mission to give a voice to all. I'm excited to soon begin sharing my thoughts on Truth Social and to fight back against big tech. Everyone asks me, why doesn't someone stand up to big tech? Well, we will be soon." It's actually a fair point. I mean, in terms of the Taliban having accounts, Chinese state-run media folks having accounts on Twitter, not getting banned. Our own congressional people having some of their tweets be prevented from retweeting, liked. It's an interesting problem. It's just fucking hard. It's a hard problem that I think Twitter more so than Facebook. Honestly, I think Twitter can do a better job of. It's just certainly it's just the notion that you just create a better social network by thinking that you can. Okay, well, ostensibly it's okay. There's gonna be less moderation. Well, okay, good luck with not moderating anything when all the trolls come in on True Social and just fucking start shit posting, or a bunch of people just start saying super racist or Nazi shit. It's like there is a balance. I'm all for freedom of speech, and the rights of people to be able to express themselves. But as a private company, you don't have to host that content, right? The First Amendment protects us from the government. It doesn't protect you and forcing Twitter to allow you to say whatever you want. That's actually the beauty of the American system. The fact that, and Vitalik Buterin, founder of Ethereum, he had actually a great post on this on his blog. I believe it was on his blog. It was a tweet thread. That's the American the fact that, by the way, I fully support. It's a tough thing, but ultimately I support the fact that Twitter and Facebook took Trump off, and the January 6th riot, that was, he called into question the results of the election. Not more than called into question. He said the election was stolen, and that was the time to take him off. Full stop. And it's actually worked. I thought it could potentially backfire. It's actually worked. You don't hear about Trump as much, and it's harder for him to raise support. And that was the final straw. People say, "Oh, look at that's a publicly elected official getting." Yeah, and I hold space for that. We shouldn't have these big tech companies be able to control, which politicians are being, which politicians get to have a voice on these networks. Although they're private companies, so they're allowed to do what they want. But when you have someone arguing, just and spreading blatant lies, blatant lies, and causing fucking violence with the January 6th riots, and then encouraging them after the fact. He did say something I think on the day to stand down or some shit. But people get into technicalities. The guy is calling into question the election with no evidence. So that that is actually, and Vitalik's post, the American system working. The fact that he was deplatformed from Twitter and Facebook, because these are private companies that can do whatever the fuck they want. Welcome to the American fucking dream, bro. Private companies operating under, conducting themselves the way they want to conduct themselves. You think in China, any of these private companies would be able to deplatform anyone from the Chinese Communist Party, Xi Jinping? You think they for a second would be able to no. They would be shut down, they'd be sanctioned, they would be, disappeared. Absolutely not. People liken this to, this is freedom in action. This is private companies sticking up, and when they see something going on in the government that is fucking heinous, lies being spread that the election was stolen with no evidence, zero evidence, boom, they stepped up. They made the decision what they want. So, in that same vein, awesome. True Social. There's been other ones like Parler, Gab. They should be able to. There should be social networks where people can, express what they want to express, but you don't have to force Twitter and YouTube and Facebook to create a platform. Now, I think they should in the long run. Like, you shouldn't just, for example, if Twitter banned all Republicans, they wouldn't do this, but they did. That's fucking ridiculous. It's a bad business move. It's bad on a lot of levels. I don't think they should do it. But it's just an interesting. It's an interesting question. So when, with things like True Social, with Gab, with Parler, and there's been some others too. I think when they create these, they realize that the same problem still exists. They're doggy on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube for it. The same problems still exist. And actually, one of the in their terms of service, they actually say Trump's site will ban. So the True Social will ban any content that would disparage, tarnish, or otherwise harm, in our opinion, us and or the site. Got it. So you have freedom of speech on True Social. You're uncancelable. But if you dog on the site, you'll be deplatformed. Okay, that's a hell of a way to start a social network that purports to support free speech. They also, famously, Trump has come at the Section 230, the Communications Decency Act. While he was president, he even stopped a defense spending bill from moving along, started signing because he wanted to get this, wanted to revoke Section 230, which allows. Section 230, remind you. It allows platforms not responsible for any third-party content posted, available through, or installed from the site, including its content accuracy, offensiveness, opinions, or reliability. So, Section 230. That's from the terms of service of True Social, which is Section 230 allows platforms, and it's one of the. I think this was in the 90s. It allowed your early tech companies not to be responsible for the things that were posted on their network. It'd be if you're a startup, in the late 90s, early 2000s, and you need to moderate every single thing, it would sink your business. So what Section 230 allowed these companies to do is say, hey, we're not responsible for this content. And Trump wanted to repeal that. And now he's saying things in his terms of service for True Social. Any third-party content posted on, available through, or installed from the site, including its content accuracy, offensiveness, opinions, or reliability. It says they're not responsible for any of that. Well, that's exactly what Section 230 is. So the hypocrisy here, and the way that he's launching it through a SPAC, and let's see, who are the people behind Digital World. It's all very Trump. The people behind Digital World Acquisition Corp. The Verge covered it in the broadest sense, a bunch of money guys. It was started by a man named Patrick Orlando. So this is the Digital World Acquisition Corp that acquired Trump Media and Technology Group. It was started by a man named Patrick Orlando, who has been an investment banker and run a sugar trading company. The SPAC's chief financial officer is Luis. Special Acquisition Company. Special Purpose Acquisition Company. Let's go, bro. I remembered. Special Purpose Acquisition Company. Thank you. Okay, that's what it is. Is Luis. So the chief financial officers Luis Orleans Braganza, a serial entrepreneur who's also a current member of Brazil's National Congress, was a member of Jair Bolsonaro's former party and the son of the heir to Brazil's defunct throne, which is just a hilarious connection. Trump and Russia, Trump and Brazil. It's Jesus. It's like, yeah, it's just laughable. And also, they used in their marketing material, they used New York Times, Chevy, and TechCrunch like example posts, and they all released statements saying, no, that's bullshit. We're not signed up for this platform. And it was funny, they announced in one of the example truths, not tweet, a truth by Chevy. It said that the EV Tahoe was launching in 2022, and Chevy said, yeah, we have no, that there's been no announcement of that. So anyway, it's an interesting. So not only did they use Chevy's brand, they made a fake announcement, and then Chevy had to say, no, this isn't true. Which, yeah, it's hilarious. So the other thing here, the other epic quote is TMTG Plus will feature non-woke entertainment programming, news, podcasts, and more. Absolutely fucking hilarious. Non-woke programming. God, listen, I'm just as one to dog the whole woke movement. I think people go way too far in that direction, prevents us from having honest conversations. But then people go too far in the other direction, which is they literally create opinions and formulate all their thinking around anti-woke. Well, now you're going too far in the other direction. Now you're just being a fucking troll. Now you're not really being a contrarian. You're just countering. You're just doing the opposite of what the other person doing. The ultimate contrarian is fucking, was that a Teal quote, Trump supporter, is just thinking for yourself. So anyway, it's an interesting, extremes everywhere, bro. But Mastodon. So what's very interesting about this is it was launched on Mastodon, which is a federated social network. So let's get into the tech here. I've kind of preached about all the non-tech stuff, but let's get into the tech stuff here real quick. We're 17 minutes in. Damn, I was rambling for a bit. I'll be straight up. It's okay. Shit happens. Mastodon is a federated social network that is it's open source, and anyone that uses it has to also release their source code, which is what True Social is built on Mastodon, and they were reached out to by the Software Freedom Conservancy. Software Freedom Conservancy has actually reached out to Trump's company and said they've ripped off Mastodon, which has an AGPL v3 license, which means that if you use Mastodon's open source software, anything you build on top of it or with it, you need to also make open source as well. And right now, True Social is not open source, and they have 30 days to comply, or there'll be legal action. And also, the head of Mastodon has also said, bro, that's fucked up. You're using our software without making your software also open source. Now, these aren't even political statements. This is literally just legal shit. They're not even dogging on Trump. They're saying, you're just not using the license properly. We provide this open source, but we do it such that if anyone uses it, you also have to make your application open source as well. Which it's a hell of a launch for the platform. But Mastodon's a very interesting. I first heard of it. I think I first heard of it. There was it allows you to build different communities on the network. So Twitter is kind of all one community. It's one network. Mastodon allows you to create sub-communities within Mastodon. So you can create your own space with your own moderation, your own content policies, your own content moderation policies. So it's much more flexible, and it's open source, which is really cool. But I first heard of it. There was I think it was Twitter, but there was a sex worker social network. It's very similar to Twitter. That was, there was a sex worker, hangout community built on Mastodon a while ago. I don't know if it's still going, but that's the first time I heard of it. And I actually joined it, or I just tried to find someone to talk to when I was running the podcast. I was like, okay, this is interesting. Well, I want to try to talk to someone that's either, a sex worker that's using this and why they're using it. I was like, okay, this is really cool because there's a tech angle, but there's also the sex work angle. It was it was an interesting thing to riff on. I never ended up finding anyone, but now it's interesting to see this come back into the fray. And as we talk about, we have these large tech companies that control a lot of what we do online. Absolutely. I talk a lot about it on this show. So I don't actually just look at True Social and think, oh, this is just so stupid. Why would you ever use this? No, I get it. I totally get it. I think their execution is dog shit, and I think Trump's a scumbag, but that's beside the point. There's an interesting, and I was just riffing with Nick B on Twitter about this. Shout out Nick B. Things like Mastodon, which kind of decentralize the control of the content we view on a daily basis, I think is an absolutely noble goal. And we've talked a lot about Web3 technologies on here, and I personally think Web3 is going to be the thing, is one potential thing that's going to bring down your Twitters, your YouTubes, your Facebooks. Maybe not bring them down, but create something new, create something different. Potentially, there's stuff there because it ties economic incentive to the network, and you get rewarded for publishing. There's economic incentives baked right in. Now, Twitter, Facebook. Well, Twitter, you can tip and stuff, but all the people that tweet make Twitter super valuable, and Twitter runs ads against your tweets. Are you getting a percent of those? Are you getting a percent of those ad revenue? No. On YouTube, you are. You're getting some of the ad revenue. On Facebook, you're not. I believe so. This is a way to actually have a piece. Web3 technology is a way to have a piece of the network. And I'm not going to get into the whole. I have plenty of episodes on this world. Mirror is an interesting. If you're interested in looking up what publishing in the Web3 world looks like, Mirror is a great application. Just Google Mirror Web3, and you'll find stuff. Chris Dixon talks a lot about it, but it gives people ownership over the network that they are participating in and helping build. And we've talked a lot about this. The classic example is Twitter opened up their API to a bunch of third-party applications, and what Twitter did was once those third-party applications and those early users helped build the network, and then what did Twitter do? They turned off API access, built their, treated their first-party app as, kind of the end-all be-all, the main Twitter app, and those third-party clients got fucked, and those early adopters, what rewards did they get? So building on Web3 tech, it's built, the whole ethos is open source. The data is open such that if, for example, in Mirror, if you don't like what's going on with Mirror, if you don't like how that community is running, boom, you can take your data elsewhere and your data is there. Your data is on blockchain and is stored on a blockchain. In Web3, in Mirror's case, it's on Arweave. So it's a very interesting, and it's all primordial, and we're still very early in the stage, but in this stuff. But I think there's definitely some potential here, and it's also just showing that software increasingly, as Mark Andreessen famously said, I think in a 2008 Wall Street op-ed, or 2005, 2006, I forget, said software is eating the world. So software is just kind of starting to become like a really big fucking deal. Now it's constantly Twitter's constantly in the fucking news. Now competing social, Facebook's constantly in the fucking news. Google, Apple's constantly in the news, and for good reason. But increasingly, software is culture. Software is business. Software is fucking life. Software is the way we conduct ourselves. Software is how humanity is living. It's living through software. So it makes sense that he who controls the code controls the world. No, just kidding. But not really. So software is only becoming increasingly important. And the reason is, and as it becomes increasingly important, I think it's important that we invest in technologies, that people experiment with technologies where a centralized authority is not controlling what we view. A bunch of people in Silicon Valley controlling what we view. And I've been, dogging on the Republicans. I'm dogging on the right for something. But I also completely. If you look back at my previous podcast episodes, it's very tough. I've also I've dogged on the way these big social media platforms have deplatformed people, have called certain things, have put tags on things, fake news tag, not fake news, but this is probably not true. For example, the Wuhan, the fact that the virus potentially came from a lab in Wuhan, which is now a very, very credible theory. And we're going to have a podcast on that. But early on, when that was first being floated, Facebook and Twitter both said, yo, this is not right. This is this is careful. Check your facts on this, which is total bullshit. It just shows you that truth, there's no such thing as a central authority being able to say what truth is. truth will always be a conversation. It will, yes, I do believe in objective facts. There are things that happen and things that did not happen. But as a society, there's no such thing as, oh, this is truth. Like, oh, we can all look to this particular source because this is truth. No, truth is kind of a collective experience that we all need to kind of hold ourselves accountable to. And you know, your New York Times might be wrong on something, but your Wall Street Journal might be right on something, and your Washington Post. So it's a constant conversation. And the way to combat, you know, fake speech is to beat it with real speech backed up, true speech backed up, true facts backed up. With you got to win the hearts and minds of people with speech. You don't do it by saying, okay, this is true, this is not, and this is the central authority, and that's the end all be all. It's a very difficult problem, and I get it. I also am saying that there are things. Listen, if YouTube is putting a bunch of completely objectively, categorically false shit, people, you know, flat earthers on YouTube, or people saying that the virus was spreading by 5G, Bill Gates. It's like, yeah, the things that are crackpot theories today might be turned out to be true later. So we need to be able to have these conversations. So I absolutely agree with that. But to act as if this is an easy problem, anyone that thinks this is an easy problem, oh, Twitter should just allow everyone to say anything. Okay, well, let's see if you want to use that platform, and let's see what happens if you allow that. And not even to mention the fact that these companies, they don't want to host all, you know, blatantly false, blatantly racist, or just, you know, racist content, whatever it may be, or, you know, porn, for example. YouTube doesn't allow porn. You can't upload porn to YouTube. They have over 18 content, but you can't just straight upload porn to YouTube, and that's a decision YouTube made. Is that a freedom of speech thing? No, that's a decision YouTube made because the community and the content they want to support on their platform, and I get that. So it's and look at you talk about freedom of speech. The RT, which is a Russia state-funded media organization. RT, you've probably seen their YouTube videos and stuff on Facebook. Now on YouTube, YouTube has a disclaimer at the bottom that says this is funded by the Russian government, which they at least used to. I haven't checked in a while. But it's like, oh, is that hurting freedom of speech? Anyone should be able to come on the. I personally believe that foreign governments shouldn't just be able to come in, use American platforms, and preach to American people and spread lies, because that's what they do. They try to incite and inflame. China does this as well. Use our platforms to do so. And Twitter banned, I think, 150,000, pro-China Twitter accounts that were just pro-China trolls trying to incite shit on the platform. It's like, yeah, these are. Well, if you want total freedom of speech, just allow anyone anytime to post anything. Yeah, that doesn't work. And also, may I remind you, First Amendment protects the government from you. Excuse me, protects the government, protects you from the government. It protects you from having your speech hampered by the government. It doesn't give you a right to post whatever you want on Twitter or YouTube. A private company does not give you the right to do that. It's not, your freedom of speech is being diminished. Yeah, that's not what the First Amendment is. Well, anyway, these are really interesting. Software's eating the world. Interesting stuff to talk about. The Republican Party wholesale bent over, lost their spine, absolute dog shit. Anyway, this went pretty long, and I was just kind of, I was a little all over the place. We were riffing a little bit. That's what we do sometimes here. So, anyway, Truth Social. I signed up, pre-order, whatever. Sign up on their email list. I'll use it. I always sign up for these things. I use them for 2 seconds, and then they send me email spam. I use like Gab and Parler, and they just send you email spam. I'm like, oh, and it's dog shit product, dog shit content on there. But, you know, you got to try things out. So I'll try it out. I'll do some shit posting on it. I'll support democracy that way, and we'll see what we can do. Dick Lucas. I am Dick Lucas. Thank you for joining. This is the No Gradient Podcast. Search No Gradient wherever you get your podcasts. Also available on YouTube. Dick C. Lucas on Instagram and Twitter. Dick Lucas on TikTok. Speaking of TikTok, I even struggle with putting my stuff on TikTok. It's Chinese. All that data, I assume, is just going right to China. I mean, it is. It's run by, what was it, Alibaba or Tencent? Who owns TikTok? Shit, I forget. But then they're beholden to the Chinese government. So it just shows you the power of software. TikTok, China, which is a foreign adversary of the United States, has a very popular social media network. This is the new battlefield, right? They have a new social media platform in the United States that's super popular in the U.S. They have the ability to push certain things. They can put pro-China and diminish pro-democracy type videos. We don't know what they're doing. It's a black box. These are very real questions that need to be discussed. So anyway, please rate, subscribe on YouTube, rate on Apple Podcasts, comment, subscribe on YouTube to always get the drops. Like on YouTube. Thank you so much. Send me feedback, comment. If you enjoyed the show. Damn, my ears aren't hurt. They usually hurt with the, oh my God, poor me, my ears hurt. I'm podcasting, my ears hurt. Okay, this was chill. Thanks for joining. True Social. Also, just the name, True Social. The fact that you're truth, like sending out a truth. To even label anything, oh, this is truth. It's like, fuck. I don't know. This stuff makes me, there's never a, this is truth. It's always a constantly evolving conversation. It's not that easy. It's a problem that's never going to go away. But there are things we can do to increase the amount of factual speech, factual content. But it shouldn't be policed by the government. Certainly not. It shouldn't be policed by a few people in Silicon Valley. I think that's what some Web3 technologies have the opportunity to potentially build things in such a way that if the more you tweet accurate things that turn out to be true, you get your reach broadens, for example. And how do you determine whether what they said was true? Well, maybe it's completely decentralized and people vote on it. I don't know. But it's always worth trying. It's worth trying new technology, which is why Web3 more than anything I'm hopeful for, and we'll see. We'll see what happens. But know that your boy Dick Lucas, No Grading, will be covering it live. And we'll be riffing on it, and we'll be talking about the future and seeing how it goes. Okay, I gotta get to work. Honestly, shit. What day is it? Wednesday. Sorry. Love you, brother beast. Cool. Shout out. I gotta get to work right now. Okay. Right on. Good shit. Stay chill. Stay woke.